So I'm happy to be back to William Carlos Williams because I like Williams so much. And he, too, was very influenced by the Imagist revolution and really is a very important part of the early stages of modernism in America in the 20th century. And he went in for Imagism briefly, but that's not so important as his own contribution to the aesthetic of condensation and of focus and of using any material for the subject of poetry. So we have a two-line poem called Lines from 1921. I'll read it, and then you can talk about it, okay? Leaves are gray-green, the glass broken, bright green. 2 lines, it rhymes, I guess. Seems insignificant. I mean, Williams is really going to come in for criticism writing poems that are notes on a refrigerator about how he took the plums. He's going to come in for this seems like a poem that's extremely open to that criticism. So what? Kristen, what do you say when someone says, so what? What is this?
Well, I think that it's kind of similar to the HD stuff that we were doing in the beginning, because it's taking what you would assume about nature and subverting it, because you have the leaves are gray-green, so what is natural is dull, and then the glass is bright green, so what's artificial is...
He's reversing.
Yeah.
Reversing what?
Our symbols, basically.
Okay. What else is he? How would you say that what he's reversing? Maurice?
Something that's supposed to be vibrant and full of life has, as Kristen was saying, this sort of washed out quality, whereas the glass really shines for him. Stands out in his
So let's create a series of oppositions. Let's just develop a vocabulary for this. What's being reversed? Max, give us some terms for the opposition.
It seems to be organic versus inorganic or manufactured.
Organic versus manufactured. Anybody else? Let's create some oppositions. Dave?
Whole versus broken.
Whole versus broken. Love that, right? Whole versus broken. Let's come back to these, but some more.
Living versus dead.
Living versus dead, or,
Animate,
animate and inanimate. Any others? Natural.
Man-made.
Man-made or artificial. I mean, the embrace of artifice by these writers is very important. Artifice can be natural, and natural, such as that American Beauty rose, can be artifice. When someone comes to your door on Valentine's Day with an American Beauty rose, you can either say, oh, you're very thoughtful, you're participating in conventional American symbolism, but you're doing it for me and I appreciate it and I know this rose costs some money. Or you could say, slam the door in his face or her face and say, how dare you come to me with a dead symbol? And the fellow or the gal who bought the American Beauty rose might well say, I didn't mean it to be a dead symbol. Well, but it is. So to reverse it, you want to show up at the door on Valentine's Day with a piece of broken green glass. That's challenging. Okay, so why challenge values this way? What's wrong with nature? Anna, what's wrong with nature? What would Williams say about nature here?
Well, I think he would say that nature's been already hashed out by the Romantics and by the Victorians. So
Poets.
We live in a new time. We need new symbols. We need new associations. We need new things to be able to talk about and write about how we feel.
Make it new.
Make it new.
And maybe you can find beauty anywhere.
Of course he's saying that. Anything can be the material for poetry. But by the way, anything could include leaves. But he's not going there because he's a radical, because he wants to create a revolution, poetic revolution. So once again, it's got to be meta-poetic. I'm really sorry, but it's got to be. It's got to be. Because the title, even without the title, Dave, I'd say it's meta-poetic because it's choosing, deliberately, moralizingly, polemically choosing the artificial over the... And if you said to Bill, are you going to write a poem about how leaves are nicer than broken glass? He'd probably say, no, that's been done. So he's being polemical. But how does the title teach us about how to read the poem?
To me, lines could reference not only like the lines of it, like the physical lines of the poem, but it could also be and this is obnoxious, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like Wordsworth, like lines written above Tintern Abbey, just a super romantic.
So the title might be referring to the tradition
of writing
of-
nature, pastoral,
of
romantic.
lines on, lines about. Tell us a little more about that tradition.
Well, for Wordsworth, like lines written, it's just the one that I'm thinking of now. He had a bunch of lines written somewhere about, he'd go into this place and he'd just like kind of wax poetic about how great nature is and kind of the sublime
nature
experience
poets. So lines is a word. I'm going with you. I'm not entirely agreeing with you, but I'm going with you. Lines is a term, a titular term that gets used in a tradition of nature poetry and of poetry that's about a moment of reflection that allows the self to express itself emotionally.
and the human experience.
And he's
in
going
nature.
against that. Williams is going
I think he's talking
against
about the
that.
window.
Okay. There is also a tone to the word lines. Good luck with this one. This is hard. There's a tone. When diction, when someone uses the word lines, instead of a poem that says, a reason why nature is not as cool as artifice. That could be a poem title. But this just says lines. What's the tone? Kristen?
It's rendering it more aesthetic.
Okay, it's
have-
focusing on the aesthetic, but that doesn't tell me about a tone. Tone meaning like angry, immodest, sad.
Isn't it kind of argumentative? It's just saying, like, it's a poem, whether we think it is or not.
It could be.
It's kind of
That's such an
polemical.
interesting. I'm thinking of it in the opposite. Lines is the kind of title we give to something that's, well, these are just lines. It's a kind of modesty. Lines, even in the romantic tradition, these are lines on, it's not important. I just wrote some lines. Lines, here are some lines. Line also is really, almost to your interpretation. What else? Molly, in the fashion world, what's a line? While you're thinking of it, I'll go to Max. In the political world, what's a line?
A party line.
A party line. It's sectarian. It's polemical. What's the line on this? Hey, Max, so you're the commissar. What's the line? What line do I have to take on nature? Well, you have to say that nature is no good anymore because we're all about Stakhanovite, artificial manufacture. That's the line, the party line. How about in fashion?
Like a silhouette or a shape of an article of clothing.
In programmatic terms, polemical terms in fashion? Anyone?
Like his fall line.
The line.
The spring line.
This is the aesthetic. Line actually means aesthetic. It means political program and aesthetic. It's a powerful term. This is a really, Maurice, are you happy about this poem? It's a lot more complicated than you thought.
Yeah, I was thinking actually about the metapoetic quality of it, and here we have the second line broken as it says by a comma, just like the glass broken. We were talking
Cool, the
before
comma
about
breaks up the line.
the transparency of language, and here he's saying, well, leaves are something you look at, but glass is something you either look through or look at to see your own reflection, but the glass here is bright green, so it has a color, and if the color is Williams's vision, perhaps.
Very good. Let's conclude by saying something about the rhyme. Is there something, part of the polemic of this make it new modernism, that leads us to seeing this rhyme as significant, or is it not significant? Emily?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, you can pass on to Kristen. What do you think, Kristen?
I think maybe by having the two lines rhyme, it renders them as parallel images. And so it's saying that it's not exactly the formula that Pound would have, but it's similar.
So when you rhyme, and the rhymes are the same words, or at least the last syllable, the rhyming syllable is the same. Usually rhyme is different. Oh my, he found or she found a way of rhyming dissonant, different things that harmonize. Rhyme harmonizes, right? And the modern poets are not into free verse, and they're not into rhyme because rhyme harmonizes, and they want disjunction.
Well, for
But
me,
this
it's
is a
like-
rhyme, green, green. So is there any? We're going to overread here, but is there anything to say about rhyming with the same?
Well, to me, like, if you're in second grade and you're supposed to write a rhyming poem,
They don't want you to
they
do
don't
the
want
same
you to
word.
do the same word. So to me, this actually kind of, I think this is more powerful that it does rhyme than if it didn't rhyme.
It creates a sense of sameness just in a poem which is telling you that nature and artifice are different. It's saying, hey, everything is subject for poetry. I'm going to put everything in there. So in a way, he slightly recuperates this polemical thing he's saying against nature. It's a nature poem that wants to include artifice as part of nature and part of us.